Every year, thousands of MBA aspirants they define their worth by a single number. And what is that? That is the CAT percentile. Friends, while entrance scores are important, but they are not only the full story. Admission committee look for something deeper, something deeper. What is that? That is the clarity of purpose, consistency, communication skills, learning mindset, and your long-term potential. So in today's discussion, it is designed to demystify how MBA admission really works, what happens beyond your cutoff, how similar scores are differentiated, and how aspirants can strengthen their profile regardless to their percentile. Now I invite our esteemed panelists, our leaders who have collectively interviewed, mentored, and selected thousands of MBA students to share their perspectives on what truly matters in MBA admission in today's date and today's scenario. So first of all, I would like to introduce Dr. Kokil Jain, who is the professor of marketing at FIIB and also the dean for outreach and the research. Professor Kokil, she is having more than 20 years of experience in academia. She has also worked with some of the India's leading academic institutions and contributing in a meaningful in their in teachings as well as in research as well as in the strategic leadership. And we have our another panelist, Professor Inderjit Lahiri sir, who is a very senior global banking professional with over 30 years of leadership experience across, and he worked with a very renowned or companies. You must have heard the name Citi, GE Capital, and Barclays. And not only the organization, he also had the very senior position over there, like CEO, CRO, and the Asia Pacific operations role across multiple international markets, specializing in the turnaround assignments, collection excellence, offshore centers of excellence, and capacity building with a strong track record in emerging market and startup ventures. If I brief about myself, my name is Dr. Digambar Prasad. I am having over more than 26 years of experience in sales, marketing, and administration. So with this leadership role across national and various international institutions as well. So now I will start my first question because the students are having lot of queries, lot of questions, lot of doubts related to their CAT percentile, what they have scored uh, every year. So I will request Professor Kokil Jain ma'am, if you can please brief to the student how the CAT percentile receive the most, generally we have seen CAT percentile receive the most attention among the aspirants. So from an admissions committee's perspective, I just want to know that how important are the percentiles really in the overall evaluation process, ma'am? If you can highlight your points, ma'am.
Thank you, Professor Digambar, for a very warm introduction and allowing me to take up the first question. CAT as an entrance examination is considered to be the most prestigious in our country, and I could not deny the importance around it and the rigorous nature of this entrance examination. Saying that, and I think it is extremely important for anybody who is eyeing getting into good institutions, good MBA institutions, or PGDM institutions, that it is not only the percentile that matters, but anybody who is sitting in the admission committee would look at a holistic profile of the individual rather than just focusing on the CAT percentile. I understand, and because there is so much of information already available on social media where conversations are primarily around percentages, but it is also very important for students, for prospective students, to understand that MBA is a very different course. It does not only require a quantitative number for your profile to be assessed as a fit or not. I think it is more and beyond that one percentile score. When I'm sitting in an interview, or specifically when I'm interviewing candidates, and I've been interviewing candidates for many, many years now, beyond that score, of course, that cutoff is important, but beyond that, I'm very keen to understand their ability to think, the clarity of their motivation, their learning agility and the coachability, communication, their presence in the room, uh, and also like values, ethics, how responsible they are, how mature they are, and most importantly, institutional fit. There are examples of individuals who had brilliant scores and even brilliant presence in the room, but the alignment with the institution was missing. or the ambition was missing, or the clarity of purpose was missing. So I think what's important is to understand that CAT percentile is just one of the criteria, is not the entire criteria for the selection. And I would request Professor Indrajit if you could add few more thoughts around it.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Kogel, and thank you, Dr. Digambar. And hello to all the prospective MBA students. I think if you could give me one examination or one way by which I can measure a human being from all the points that Dr. Kokil mentioned, like, for example, is there a score which will give me an ability to be a good manager, a good leader, a good team player, along with being a good student, academic readiness, problem solving? Then I would take that score. Now, CAT is not that exam, and there has been no such exam, at least to the best of my knowledge, which kind of measures everything. CAT happens to be the ability for you on a given day. How well did you do in that particular exam? And mind you, it tells us something about you. If I get a good CAT score, I've been academically ready, I have got an ability to crack some exam, but it doesn't tell me who I am. It doesn't tell the panel who I am or who I could be. So, to the point that Dr. Kokil mentioned, we will keep talking about CAT score in the next 30, 40 minutes, but certainly to set the context, there is no one such exam that can give a panel a holistic view, 100% guaranteed sure shot that he's going to become an Elon Musk tomorrow, or a Bill Gates, or even a leader of the free world. So more on those points. I'll come back on these points a little bit later, but I hope we've set that context. Over to you, Dr. Digambar.
Totally agree with you, sir. And you rightly mentioned that there is no specific one point of like maybe it is only the examination or some criteria where we can analyze any of the student. As Professor Kokil has also mentioned that there are so many different things also, but the admission team members are looking. Maybe in the later stage, the recruiters are also looking like the motivation, communication, values, ethics, principles, clarity of purpose, the general awareness, the mindset of the students also, and these are really very important. So I totally agree with you, but again there are some question also, because there are some institution, they focus on the CAT percentile, JAT percentile also, but there are some other profile things also. But the challenge comes when multiple candidates have the similar CAT percentile. So I just want to know the what specific factors help you to differentiate between them, like during shortlisting or finalizing any of the candidate, because that is really very important. So I request you if you can highlight on these points, ma'am.
Of course, Digambarji, and I think we need to also understand the process of getting into an MBA program. It's a multi-step process, you know. I think irrespective of the college we are talking about, and every institution will have their own steps to evaluate candidates and finally select them. So we need to understand that it is a multi-step process, and therefore every component of that process is measuring something. For example, if you have similar CAT percentile, it would be followed by a personal interaction or some other test in some colleges. Now, that personal interaction is extremely important. Why? Because MBA is a program, or PGDM is a program which requires a constant agility in terms of your approach. So if I may say, like for example, the present environment we all are in, and the kind of flux we all are in, what's happening today or what's relevant today would no more be relevant tomorrow. And therefore, if I'm assessing a candidate, I'm assessing the candidate based on how they would end up after 2 years into the program. MBA is a tough program, and PGDM is a tough program because it requires continuous evaluation, continuous learning, unlearning. So, therefore, even if you have similar CAT scores, there is a high possibility that you have a very different profile. And when I say profile in terms of what exposure you have got, what experiences in life has led you to where you are at the moment. How comfortable you are in situations which are uncertain, how quickly you're able to visualize and convert your abstract thinking into meaningful expression of words. So there are multiple things that we assess when the candidate is in the room. And that is what the role of this step is. The role of this step is to look beyond CAT percentile. And that is where the real differentiation happens. And I would also like to mention that many a times, there's a possibility that somebody who has not had the right exposure or the right educational background or the right means to get a good CAT percentile. But that does not mean that the person does not have the ability. So the interview round itself is conceptualized, is designed in a way to understand the candidate more holistically. For example, at FIB, we consider interview as a conversation. It is not like a judgment that we are making. We're trying to understand the person in more depth. We're trying to understand what challenges they have gone through or what experiences they have had and how they've emerged out of those challenges, what ambition they have about their lives. I think that itself would differentiate two people who might have ended up with similar CAT percentiles, and therefore, while that evaluation is happening, it will be very, very clearly established. The difference would be very clearly established in the interview room itself. Then there are other ways also. For example, while if I talk about FIB's in admission process, so we have also introduced AI into getting a profile check for the students. So there are various steps involved, and that gives us a clear understanding into the behavioral aspects of the individual, because ultimately when they'll be joining organization, they will have to undergo those behavioral tests, because the organization are also considering a candidate not just based on the on the intellectual capability, but also their behavioral agility and strengths and an entire profile. So this is how it works. And Professor Indrajit, if I missed out anything, please add.
No, I think there'll be all of those. All of those are valid. I would add, maybe if I summarize it, there are probably three factors that I would look at in an interview. Is your quality of thinking pure and precise? Are you structured in the way in which you come across? Right, you don't have to speak a lot. Your CAT score may say something, but your quality of thinking is so high that it may be a very high CAT percentile. The exam was not able to do justice to your talent. So that's one, quality. Second is, do you have any consistency and intent? Several times we find people with certain scores in their 10th or 12th or even undergrad CAT, and I'm looking for a pattern. And if I find that they are random, then I'd like to probe a little bit more. And then there you get an opportunity to say, here's what happened to me, here's what I did, and my CAT percentile is today this, but it could have been much higher. I give you a chance to speak. And last thing is, are you able to reflect? Now, some of these self-awareness kind of issues are things which we are going to teach you as and when you join our institute. But I feel that you are old enough, you got all the necessary education to be able to differentiate as to who is self-aware and who's more like a scripted response. So we, just like Dr. Kokil said, we really think about a multiple set of factors before we finally take a decision.
Mm. I'll add one more to it, Professor Indrajit, and as I'm once a faculty, always a faculty. So I also tend to see that what contribution the
Thank you.
individual will make to the classroom.
Yeah.
So what unique perspectives will this candidate bring into classroom discussion? Will they elevate the discussion? Will they elevate the debate that's happening in the classroom? And can they learn with others, not just from the faculty? I think it's so important today that individuals or candidates have the capacity and the intent to learn from their peer group as well. So I think that's also I see when I'm evaluating a candidate. I hope that
Thank you, ma'am.
Digambar.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. These are really very important point. And what the first point, what you have mentioned that maybe in the past the student has they were not able to get the right environment. Maybe because of their financial condition, because maybe the family condition, maybe because of the environment what they are having. But what kind of the mindset they are having related to like having the mindset to explore more and more, having the mindset to introspection self himself or herself that where is the gap they are finding, and mindset also to like are they ready to work on those gaps. So these are really very important thing. And moreover that like Professor Larry has also mentioned about the kind of the quality of thinking they are having, self-awareness they are having, and moreover that curiosity to learn, that is really very important. If you permit me, I will just share one example over here. Like many times we have seen, even though we have also read many reports over there, the students, the gold medalists from the finance specialization, many of the students are from the engineering background. They
Absolutely.
have never studied the finance in the past, but yes, they have like mindset that now they are jumped into the MBA and the management program. They are looking what kind of career path, future opportunity they are looking, and they are working hard on that. They are changing their mindset accordingly, and they are achieving that. So yes, when the students will have such kind of mindset, definitely they will have the benefit of this.
And Digamaji, I would like to bring two examples from the students that we have, especially when you were talking about the past opportunities somebody would have got. So there are two girls in the current batch who came from not so privileged background. But what struck all of us during the interview was the intent to, to the intent to prove to the world that yes, they are capable of doing things and doing things very differently, and a lot of ambition. I think that struck a chord with the panel, and they were selected into the program. And I'm very happy to say that not only nationally, they have proven themselves in competitions, they've done exceptionally well in international competitions too. The kind of leadership roles that they're taking within the institution, whether it is in the student council or the different programs, one that Dr. Professor Indrajit is leading, the corporate mentorship program, they're winning in those opportunities. So I think that also somewhere gives an acceptance to the hypothesis that it does not matter from where you're coming, it matters where you plan to go and how much energy and fuel you have in you to make that possible. So I think that is what exactly we are looking at.
Totally agree with you. And again, I just want to add one more point over here. In the past, also, we have seen there are the students who score more than 80, 85 percentile also have been rejected over there. What was the reason? Even being from the sales background, every time we are the sales people, we keep in our mind, okay, this is our lead, we have to convert that. But more important at what kind of mindset we are bringing in our organization, what kind of culture we are having, bringing into our organization or our institution, what kind of like thought process the candidate is having. So that is totally beyond from the CAT percentile also. So yes, totally agree with you, ma'am, and that is really very important. But again, there is one question come like CAT percentile is one thing. Then how important is the career clarity and the authenticity, as Professor Larry has also mentioned, that what should they have during their applicant journey also. Just want to know, can a like strong narrative, competence for a moderate percentile, the student who are not able to score 80 percentile. So what different the candidate can do once he or she join the program?
Very often we find students, both at the time of admissions as well as later on when they join, that a story is evolving. And it's beautiful for us as faculty to be part of that evolution.
Absolutely.
It's not about what you did or what brand you did. It's about what did you learn from that whole process.
Yeah.
And that's something very important, that it's a two-way street. The student has to be able to explain, this is what I learned, this is what I did, this is the problem I tried to solve. And then it becomes like a partnership. Like many times we are able to extract that there is a lot of talent hidden. Ability to solve a problem is not always like a template ki aise hi ho jayega, or there is no other way or something like that. Like for example, if I were to choose a big consulting company, McKinsey, it's not like you have only one way of solving a particular problem. So whenever you go through some experience, whether it's an internship, whether many of our students also have some amount of work experience, or even at a college level, you've been participating in some team activity, there is something hidden over there that speaks to me, that tells me that I can see, I can spot talent and I can develop that talent with academic as well as a corporate kind of an experiential exposure to the students. So I would say to the students, do not hide anything that you're doing. Inside that is there's a lot of talent, particularly how did you approach a problem.
Yeah.
So when you come to an interview process or even in your application stage, do mention that this is what I tried to do. And I'd add one last point before I request Dr. Kokil to add on to this. Uh, in my own life, I've seen many times that I've learned the most when I have failed. And
Yeah.
I'd like to tell students, I was also your age. We were all your age at some point in time. And we were always a little bit petrified or worried. Oh my God, Abito, this is the, like, what will happen if I don't score this CAT or if I don't get into this MBA? But it's those failures, hidden inside those failures are real experiences. The ability to speak and say, this is what I tried to do. Maybe out of five things that my parents asked me or my peer group, I attempted and I solved three, but I could not do two. The admission panel always sees this. To the previous point made by Dr. Kokil, I think it's a combination of several factors. Failure is a pillar to your success. If you do not fail, I do not expect you that tomorrow it's like too late to be failing. Maybe you should fail early. You probably read that book which says fail fast. Now,
Yeah.
if you fail fast, then you learn faster and you'll be better than me at my age. And I would say the students of today, the Gen Zs, they are exploring all these options all the time. And I sometimes feel that though we are taking this panel, there sometimes they can actually tell us how many
Yeah,
of these things
true.
can.
True, true. I completely resonate with what you mentioned, Professor Indrajit. And I remember my days when
Yeah,
I was preparing for CAT at the CAT percentile I was aiming at, couldn't get that. And at that point in time, the kind of opportunities we had were very limited, and the kind of openings and paths we had were very limited. But I think as I reflect back on my own journey, I see, I think that that failure was perhaps that molded who I am today. And therefore it is so important to fail. And I think how you take the failure, as how you reflect on that failure and how you learn from that failure is an important part. And I would also like to mention that, there was a time when companies were not very experimental in terms of what kind of candidates they need to pick up. They wanted a specific profile, a specific educational profile, and a specific kind of a path and a journey. But I think as both of us very frequently interact with industry, and you've been in industry, and I think you've spent majority of your life working with top organizations, I think the companies are more open to experimenting with different kind of individuals. We all are talking about diversity, and we all have learned through our own ways that diversity is something which makes the learning more important. So diverse classrooms, diverse teams, diverse working colleagues. I think everybody has understood the importance of it, and I think even the top colleges are aiming for that diversity. So they need people coming from different backgrounds. They actually need people coming from different CAT percentiles. What if
yeah,
they end up entering people with similar CAT profiles? I think there'll be no fun in the classrooms. So yes, I need in my classroom people who have come from different places and different backgrounds and different experiences, and as Professor Indrajit said, different level of failures. Absolutely, I absolutely agree with you, Professor Indrajit.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. And what I understood, what sir has also mentioned that okay, be the failure in the line. Be the failure. So you will have those mistake and learn from those mistake. You do the multiple mistake, but don't repeat the same mistake again and again, and learn from those mistake and make the ladder from that. And second thing, you also mentioned like uh, what generally what we have seen, what the admission interview panels are asking over here during the interview, what generally the recruiters are also expecting from the candidate once you complete your management program, 2 years program from the institution. So that is not only your academic, that is not only your CAT percentile, but your overall mindset, your design thinking, critical thinking skills, problem solving skills, negotiation skills, your how you make the networking, how you take the best output from your resources, the classroom classmates, but you are having the seniors, you are having the alumni member, you are having the industry people, you will be associated with the institution, and in the past also what kind of benefits the students have taken from there while they were studying in the college, or maybe they were doing some internship or the certification program, the best use what they have taken from that. So that kind of mindset that they have to learn, unlearn, and having the ability to relearn, so these kind of mindset the students should have. But like following this point, I just also want to know, like many students, they generally we have seen they focus on the brand of internship or the companies, what kind of companies they will be connected for the internship or the final recruitment. So how should like aspirants present their experiences effectively during their admissions also? That is very important thing, ma'am. So if you can highlight something on this part, ma'am.
I would want Professor Indrajit to take this question first.
Like I said before, we are a little bit caught up about names and brands, etc. And very often we miss the big picture, which is what's the impact to me? And though you are young, maybe you're in your early 20s or something, I'm talking to the students, they are unable to put the whole picture together. So I would I would urge youngsters to say that if I have been given an opportunity, what have I learned out of that opportunity? Forget the brand. I am a brand myself. You should start believing in that from today. You're coming into an MBA stream. From there, you're going to be into corporate life, or maybe you'll have your own businesses, your startups. Uh, if you don't believe in that, then it becomes more difficult for us to. We can't teach you something in a classroom. So the internship, work opportunity, even if you do not. I didn't have any work experience before I joined an MBA, but I was very clear that by that time, whatever I had done in my life, there were some stories hidden, and I nobody could stop me to tell them. And when I got an opportunity, but there's one thing I'll say before I pass on this. There's one thing I learned. If at any point in time the panel sees in you whether you got a very high CAT score or something else, and you have arrogance, if you're arrogant, or if you feel you're entitled कि मैंने ये एग्जाम कर ली मैंने वो कैट स्कोर कर ली, then I am definitely going to be uh, you know uh, admitted. I don't have to worry. That would be the start of a failure. So I many times, and Dr. Digambar, you'll agree, that we look for those traits and we try to see, to the point that Dr. Kokil mentioned, is this student going to be a fit into our classroom? We don't want somebody who is always thinking, I worked in so and so company, I solved, what have you done? And therefore I deserve more. No, you don't deserve more. You come in and then we all learn together. And that's a very important point, even in work. When you, after MBA or even after a few years, the arrogance has been the cause of a lot of people's downfall. So please be aware of that as you prepare for this important phase in your life.
Agree to it. And I think I remember rejecting somebody who was so close to feedback. As a panel, we were sharing some points where the individual could improve, and we could see very clearly that the person was not open to feedback. So yes, arrogance is something which uh, is not appreciated. I think what's important is ambition. Ambition without arrogance. I think ambition with humility works, because with humility you continue growing, you continue learning, and I do not know how much importance, or how repeatedly we need to talk about the importance of continuous learning and never stop learning. And as you see on Professor Indraji's screen as well, that's what the ethos of the brand is. You should never stop learning at any stage in your life. And when it comes to brands, I think when we enter the classroom, for us everybody is equal. uh, for us, what matters is how you're performing in the class. That evaluation has happened, you are admitted to the program, Now, what we want is your participation and your value creation in your own individual way in the classroom. If you talk about a scholarship policy, and I would like to bring it here, while we were designing it, while we were, bringing in newer categories, the thought process behind that was that we have to ensure that anybody and everybody uh, is included in some way or the other. Whether you come from not so privileged financial background, or you are exceptionally bright, or you have done exceptionally well in co-curricular activities, or you have taken up leadership positions in the educational journey, or you have worked in previous organizations. So, of course, scholarship puts you at an edge with respect to the others in the batch, but that is how the program has been designed to include so many different people coming from so many different experiences, so that when they are in the classroom is different. And I always tell my students that knowledge cannot be created unidirectionally.
Mm.
It has to be co-created in the classroom. Everybody, including of course the faculty, everybody has a equal responsibility. I would not say equal, but I think responsibility to co-create knowledge, in the classroom. And you can only be participating in that knowledge creation if you are the right candidate in the program. And that is, I think, what we evaluate when I mentioned that I also foresee how that person is going to perform in the class.
I totally agree because that is important at what kind of learning you are having over here. Particularly, if I will give one example of FIIB, like all the students who are looking for their management admission, they are looking that they will have a good kind of company profile and the package. But we have one unique program that we call SIP, Social Internship Program, where
Yes.
we connect all the students with the NGOs and the not-profit organization. Reason behind that, see, earning the money is very easy. Getting the job is very easy. Getting connecting with the corporates are very easy. But having the mindset to support to the people those are in need, that is very important thing. And that make you the person, like if you really want to succeed in your life, you have to have such kind of mindset. So agree, totally agree with you, man. But moving further, like many aspirants still, because uh, who feel like, because this is the topic where we are more focusing on the CAT percentile and the CAT score also, but sometimes the aspirants who feel really disappointed with their CAT score. So I just wanted to know, like, what practical steps can they take to strengthen their profile and stay like competitive for getting admission in uh, uh, like such kind of good institution. They can set their career path. So what beyond CAT percentile they can do to get admission in good institutions, ma'am?
I think what is important for all of us to understand here is that it is not one fine day you decide that I want to enter into a PGDM or an MBA program and I get into one. It's a preparation that you need to do. And therefore, it is important that you have had right exposure and have participated in right things and have had right experiences to build a profile that the panel would be impressed to consider you beyond the CAT percentile. So this is one. Now, if you did not have had that opportunity, or perhaps you're coming from a place where you had limited opportunities, fine. Then the next important occasion or the step or opportunity is the interview. I think I've seen candidates not taking interview process very seriously. I think, and I think this is the biggest mistake anybody can do as far as getting into good MBA schools is, you have to be very, very well prepared for the interview. You need to understand, you need to study the school that you're applying to. You need to understand what kind of ethos, what kind of expectations, what kind of class profile, what kind of faculty members the school has, what kind of ambition the school has. Do visit the website of the school that you're applying to. You will be able to get thorough understanding about the school, and see what the school gives importance to. And Of course, preparation for that interview is important. Just reflect on what you have done. Maybe you do not have excellent stories to tell about, but you can, that reflection would always help. And bringing those examples would at least give somebody an insight into who you are as a person. Even if you have done really well, and I've seen people with good resumes and good candidature, but they're not able to express what they did and why they did it and what did they learn out of that experience. So I think you should feel very comfortable. It is a conversation that's happening. It's you telling your own story. It's just like that. And you have to decide how you need to know, how you need the world to know your story. Fine, it's so important. So you can tell your story, you can make your story as a sob story, or you can make your story as a hero story. So you need to really reflect on what kind of conversations you think you need to have when you're part of the interview. So I think the most important thing, there are two three important things that I would tell, that when you started with this ambition of getting into an MBA program, you have to start early. You have to get a good profile in terms of events that you have participated in, experiences you have had, leadership positions you have taken in your school or in your undergraduate programs, um, traveling that you have done perhaps. So whatever you have gathered over years. And then if you don't have a good percentile, and if you do not have good experiences or good CV to talk about it, then give utmost importance to the interview. The interview can be a game changer for you. So prepare yourself for the interview. Do some previous, um, reach out to somebody who has already been part of such interview panels. I think it's very easy through LinkedIn. You can reach out to people who have had those interviews already, have been part of those interviews, and they'll be able to tell. On the websites also, for example, on our website, we have a clear um, uh, we have clarity in terms of what we expect the candidates to, how we want the candidates to perform in the interview. What is the expectation of the panel? We also send details to our prospective students that this is what the interview would look like. So read all those documents clearly, understand the expectations, and then of course you might end up getting into a good admission at MBA or a PGDM program. Professor Indrajit, anything that you'd like to add?
I would say my one advice is stop trying to impress and start trying to be clear. Like I always will ask one question in an interview: why MBA? And
Hmm.
many students are kind of, it's a very basic question. It seems like a very simple question. It's a very tough one. They a lot of the stories that Dr. Kokul is talking about, if you haven't prepared yourself for the interview, that's when it comes off the rails. That's when you lose it. You might have whatever CAT score, but if you have clarity, why am I doing an MBA? What problem do I expect to solve 5 to 10 years from now by virtue of being an MBA? So I would say start preparing more like from your own stories, reflect, prepare on your communication skills. In today's day and age, there's so many of these Gen AI tools that you can possibly make a whole mock of what might happen in an admission by going into Chat GPT, and you can get some questions and suggested answers. But what will happen is when you look at us in the panel, eye to eye, those students will be accepted who will say, this is my story. I might not have the highest CAT, but I have a clarity. And I'm going to say it with a lot of conviction, that, and I can give some examples from my life. This is what I did. And I might have failed in so and so, but I am very, very willing to work hard and make sure that I succeed. So, students, I would just say that, combining all these points, this is like a kind of a good point for you to sit down and think while you're preparing for CAT, doing well on the test, etc. But there are so many of these other points that have to come in. Many times people forget about this. They do not focus on their admission, on their interview taking skills, and then they come back and say, "What was wrong in me? I had such a very good score. Kyun nahi mila?" etc. etc. And the same thing happens in life as well. They might have a very high CGPA score from an MBA, and they still may not get the best job. And the interviews are essentially what we are going to do here in admission is like a mock of what will happen 1.5 or 2 years later when you're sitting for jobs with salaries of rupees per annum. They're going to see the same traits that today's webinar talked about.
Thank you, sir. And really, these are very important point what student can use while selecting or going for any B school. And I just want to share one thing. What I have realized in last many years, students are having few, like once they are looking for any B school, they are mostly having in the mindset what kind of placement the institution is offering, what kind of accreditation approval having, what kind of fees the institution is having, what kind of faculty, infrastructure, location, specialization, pedagogy, national international exposure what the institution will be able to give them. But once they like score low in their CAT or some other entrance exam also, then they get disappointed that whether they will get such admission in such kind of institution or not. Then what happens, sometimes there are some external people also who guide them and then connect them to the such kind of institution where they were not able to uh, they are not able to get the such kind of learning from those institutions. So how you advise that how the student can find and seek the best school where they can get admission and can set their career path for long after 2 years also.
I think in today's time, it is so easy to identify information to get information about different schools. On the contrary, it is people might get overwhelmed with the amount of information that is available. So it can get confusing sometimes because there's so many portals and there's so many conversations happening at the same time. And somebody who's trying to get into a good program, there might be a lot of confusion, and therefore I would advise to make take the decision in your own hand rather than getting advice from multiple people. The best way to do is to go whichever schools that you're considering. I would again suggest, to know more about the school, visit the school, talk to faculty, talk to students, talk to different department leaders. You will get a sense of the commitment the school has towards your career. I think that is very, very important. I think commitment to somebody's career is so important, whether you matter to them or not, whether your journey matters to them or not, whether you're just a number to them or whether they are careful in terms of what strengths and weaknesses you bring on the table, and how the strengths can be advantageously be looked at and how weaknesses can be further strengthened. So I think that sense of importance, or I would say the sense of care and the sense of seriousness that any school would have about you can only be assessed if you're visiting. I think I would always suggest go and visit and talk to people. Don't just decide on superficial aspects. I would still say, I think I've seen many students judging a business school based on how big the canteen is and how big the playground is, or do they have a shopping mall inside the business school, and or do they have a game parlor inside the school? And I'm amused at that, at those criteria being utilized, because nobody is going to ask you that when you're sitting in the final interview to get placed. You'll be judged based on what knowledge you have acquired in those 1.5 or 2 years that you're with the school, how committed the school has been in your journey, and therefore the outcome, how what change, what transformation has happened in your own individual personality, how the school has coached you, trained you for the future. And that can only be assessed. Commitment can only be assessed if you go and speak to people in the school. I think that's very important. Go and visit the website. I think visiting the website, the social media pages, of course, would give you a very good indication in terms of what is the school thinking about the future. I think yes, future is very important. Business schools specifically, if there are business schools whose curriculum is not aligned in terms of how the future would evolve, uh, I don't think that that's a school to be considered. I think curriculum relevance, industry connect, quality of the faculty, These are some very, very important. Don't go on the numbers, please. Numbers can be, I know it's so easy to manipulate numbers. So I think don't go on numbers. It is very important to get the right understanding about the school. And if you're planning to get into an MBA or a PGDM program, it is important that you get that thinking hat and make a decision on your own self rather than relying on all the random information that is available. So these are some criteria which I would think if I have to apply today to a business school, I will seek information pertaining to faculty. I will seek information related to accreditations, international accreditations. I will, of course, if I need, scholarships are very important for me because scholarship would define the commitment of the school towards education. So yes, I will look at the scholarship that the school has given. I will look at the alumni base, um, some part of the infrastructure. All those are important, but I will never look at the size of the cafeteria, the size of the playgrounds, and the size of the gaming parlor. I think that's irrelevant for me if I'm looking at a business school.
And I have seen, yes, definitely infrastructure is important, but there are two kind of infrastructure. One is the physical infra, like the building and the ground and the canteen, what you have mentioned. But there are some infra like the academic infra, like what kind of software, Harvard cases, and the other things, and the certification what the institution is offering. Yes, that is very important. And here I'm really very happy. Even many of the students who come over here, I'm happy to share that only the few ask for the placement. They mostly ask what kind of teaching you are having, what kind of faculty you are having, what kind of accreditation benefits what they will have after completing this program, what kind of learning they will have in terms of domestic and the international also. So these kind of like once the student is clear for what purpose they are going to do for MBA program, definitely that really help them out to get admission in the one of the best base school. So thank you, ma'am, for this. Very useful information. And I have the last question from both of you. If I will start from Lahiri sir. So if you had to give just one piece of advice to MBA aspirants who are preparing for the admission, so what would that be, sir?
MBA is not a badge of honor or a reward for your past performance. It's a platform for your future. It's a very important decision for you. Very few students in India or the world end up doing this master's degree. A small percentage, so you are going to be one of them. Take that decision very seriously. It's a combination of several things that will end up being the perfect match between you and the MBA school. Your scores are one, your performances, your consistency, your all the points that we mentioned, your preparation, interview, and after you do get in, it's a roller coaster. There's so much of new information that you are going to get about different disciplines, and then you will be exposed to the whole wide corporate world. So it's a mental frame that you must be ready to accept as soon as you join in. You are going to be in the hands of experts and who are going to give you textbook as well as experiential learning. So I wish you all the best in this kind of deciding moments of your life.
So I will request the same question from ma'am also. What advice would you like to give to the candidates, ma'am?
I would just say be yourself. I think it's so important to first understand who you are, your own strengths, your own weaknesses. Identify a program that fits your capabilities and your understanding. And the top business schools, they don't admit perfect profiles. They admit people who understand their own strengths and their own gaps and their own readiness to work, to learn. So therefore, stop trying to look impressive or stop trying to impress. Start trying to be honest about your journey. I think this is so important. And the more honest you will be, the better reflection in terms of what has to be achieved. I should also mention here that many individuals who are applying to an MBA program, even to and getting admission to the top IMs, I would say, they assume that getting into the program would guarantee a success, would guarantee a good placement outcome. No, I think getting into an MBA or getting into a PGDU program is just the first step of the journey. I think the journey starts, the difficult part of the journey starts when you get inside into a program like this. So don't assume that, okay, I'm done, I've done and dusted, and therefore I'll automatically get a good job and some company would come and just hand over the job. No, it's not like that. PGDM is a very, very tough and a very fast-paced program. And as Professor Indrajit said, that's designed beautifully. If you just follow the formula and you don't question the formula and you only question what you're bringing in the formula, then you are bound to succeed. And therefore, uh, always keep that in mind, that getting into an MBA program is just the start of the journey. The journey starts as soon as you enter into the program. It's a I would not say it's a long journey. It's a short and a difficult one, but it requires you to be on your toes. So keep that strength, keep that focus, keep that energy, and I'm sure it will take you to bigger places. All the best.
Thank you, ma'am, and thank you, Inderji sir. So, friends, now what personally I understood that admissions are not about being the perfect. They are about being prepared, purposeful, and authentic. So, thank you to our panelists for helping aspirants to see beyond their percentile and understand what truly shapes an MBA journey in their life, in their career path. So thank you, ma'am, and thank you all the aspirants who give time to like learn about how they can proceed further.
I
Thank you
would
very
like to
much.
mention Dr. Digambar and Professor Njit. It was lovely being part of the same panel as both of you, and I thoroughly, thoroughly enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, we had some time to reflect. I mean, it's not always we get down to
Yeah.
spending 1 hour on a particular topic, and we also learn so many things from each other.
Absolutely.
So it was
Yeah.
good.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you,
Bye.
sir. Thank you, ma'am.